everybody, thank you very much for joining us. As you can see, we're standing outside the Teatro Real in Madrid because we're about to interview Ivor Bolton, who is the current musical director of the Teatro Real, and he's also the conductor of the next production that the Real is going to be doing, which is a new production of Mozart's opera Idomeneo. This interview is part of a program run by British Council in Spain called Classics for All, and this is a program in which we want to try and make classical music as accessible to as much of the general audience as is possible. So we're very fortunate to work with fantastic partners such as the Teatro Real, with whom we have a very good relationship. And we also work with organisations like the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden in London, or the Fundación Albéniz, or the Auditorio Nacional here in Madrid. So, with no further ado, let's go and find Ivor and hear what he has to say about Mozart and about music in general. Thank you.
Well, in my view, it contains some of the greatest and most original music certainly written in his life up to that point. And in fact, some of the most original music he wrote throughout his entire career, which of course we know was very short because he died tragically young. It's his third opera seria. He'd written two before for Milan, far more conventional, Mitridate and Lucercilla, which the Madrid public knows. This one is of a completely different order of complexity, musical detail, beauty, astounding contrasts, and a real virtuoso use of the orchestra. So there's musical gems at every point, 5 or 6 times an act. I have a long-standing relationship with it because one of my first ever jobs in life was after I left university and college was to be sent to Glyndebourne to be assistant chorus master while I was still in my final year at college. And there I met a young Robert Carson who was also an assistant. So we were just reminiscing about how we met on this piece, albeit a very long time ago. I won't tell you how long. We think this is hopefully a landmark production for this piece, and I think Robert has, without giving too much away, he's updated it, but not in an insensitive way. And of course, we live in a time where there's mass tides of humanity being shipwrecked, and I think various parallels can be drawn there, but also that people, through no fault of their own, are sort of cast into situations which are unpalatable and unbearable. I think, without being boastful, I think we feel very proud of the work we've done in these 4 years, particularly the response to the last 2 seasons. Particularly, there's been a high level of consistency, and I think that defines a good house. Many houses seesaw between one hit and then 2 failures, and I think it's fair to say, I think the last 2 seasons, Joan Matabosch has planned an overall balancing of the programme. In terms of the public, I think the public has been very appreciative of surprising pieces that you might think they might not go for. So I think Billy Budd was a game changer in that respect because people learned to trust us. We're very proud that the Billy Budd production, which won all these awards, and Diapason d'Or, and the best opera production in the whole world, I think, or whatever, that's going to Covent Garden soon, so people in England, as we're recording for the British Council, will see it in April this year at Covent Garden. So it's nice, and as I think Hugh Canning, the distinguished critic, said after Gloriana, said now Madrid is the go-to address for English companies to find their productions of Benjamin Britten. So I mean that was a rather nice compliment to have that the English houses buy their productions of Benjamin Britten from us. Gloriana is, in a sense, much further down the Britten canon in terms of being an established masterwork because of, as we said at the time, because of its a checkered performance history. It was a disaster when it opened, and it was given to an audience of English upper class people. Most of them had probably never been to any opera, and thought that musicians and artists went in through the tradesman's entrance, and the a rather disdainful opening public, and they still less did they appreciate Britten's music. They probably wouldn't have appreciated Billy Budd, so it's very unpromising, and apparently it was a disastrously executed opening performance. So, he didn't really get over that. That was 30 years in the doldrums, and in the meantime he wrote some other good operas, so then that's natural that those took precedence in the canon of Britain. So it was nice that our public trusted us on that and seemed to enjoy it, and I think that's part of developing the public's taste, so they don't just want to come for Traviata, Bohème and Carmen and the 10 most popular operas ever written, which is still they will still always be the 10 most popular operas ever written. That's, in the same way Real Madrid and Barcelona will be the 2 most popular football teams in Spain. That's inevitability. That's hard to challenge the hegemony that exists, but it doesn't matter what happens. What matters is that our sense of what the repertoire is expanding. Madrid has a very healthy setup. I think this theatre is really, as many singers say, one of the top houses in Europe now. And for example, we haven't quite got the history of Paris opera in its glorious 19th century, but I think we view ourselves as an international opera house for 20 years, since the building of the new Teatro Real.